Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Mind Movements morning series here. We are winning the day on Wednesday here. And just a little brief description of what we do here at Mind Movement. Um, by the way, I'm Mike Martin with Mind Movement. And my role is movement specialist and mixed martial artist. And basically, in a nutshell, what we do is combine movement as well as mental health practices to combine and just kind of well, not kind of, but give ourselves agency into living the lifestyle that we want for ourselves, basically. Okay. So through this class here, we will be moving, say, about 55 minutes actually, the class will be, and we'll be moving through a series of movements from the ground up. We'll be starting on our yoga mat. So what we can do is have your yoga mat just place out a long way so we can see your lateral body, and maybe about 6 to 10 square feet of space, and also have some water handy for our breaks in between, as it is very important to keep yourself hydrated throughout your workouts. And for me also to keep a nice speaking tone here as well, right? So yeah, again, so we start from the ground up, and here what I would like us to do is start in a position we call Seiza. So Seiza, our knees are together, our feet are together, legs are pretty much parallel. So I'll show you frontwise first, right? And just grounding the tops of our feet to the mat, and sitting hips back towards our heels. And here, when we're in a relaxed state here, maybe closing the eyes, that would be preferable. So we can actually visualize without having to use our actual vision. You can see further with our imaginations. But here we want to go ahead and presence ourselves. And what more present than the breath, right? That unconscious function that's with us day in, day out, whether we choose it or not. Let's go ahead and keep the spine nice and tall. Just slightly tilt the chin forward. Eyes are closed. Facial muscles relaxed. You inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. And as I just mentioned, presencing. So keeping ourselves in this moment. Perhaps we woke up with a bit on our minds. Chores, bills. Be they things prior to this session or things that we're projecting to after this session. Just like the air we take into our lungs, be present to what nourishes us and let go of what no longer serves us. Inhale through the nose. And exhaling through the mouth. And again, checking in on the mind. Anything that may enter the mind, thought disturbances, internal disturbances, external disturbances. all processed through the mind. Maybe it's a car that just passed by, a barking dog, a crying baby. Accepting that for what it is. Of course, making sure that crying baby is taken care of. And again, letting go. Whatever expectations we may have in this session. Or any worries of the past. We're going to deepen our breaths. Have a slight pause at the top of our breathing. The top being my full inhalation. That pause for half a second, or in a second, whatever we can bear. And let go. Exhale. And then pause at the bottom of the breath. Half a pace. And inhale. Really expanding the rib cage, allowing more space for air to course into the lungs. And completely emptying the lungs. Exhaling through our mouths. Small pause. Inhale. And experience what that means to us, that sensation. What arises in our minds, our bodies, throughout our spirit. Just finding where our discomforts are. Maybe it's in the tops of our feet and our thighs, being in position for a long period of time. If you find too much discomfort, feel free to walk your hands forward, lift your hips off your heels. Just come into a tabletop position. Let the blood course through. If you feel comfortable enough, return back to Seiza. Spine upright, head slightly tilted forward. Relax the jaw, relax the eyes. Eyes still closed. Return to our breathing, but this time regulating our breathing. To presence ourselves into the space that we're in, to allow ourselves into the space that we're in, the space that we belong. So you begin to open your eyes. Take in that space, your surroundings, perhaps even your discomforts, and breathing through them. In time. So here, I want us to raise ourselves again, heels off of our hips, off of our heels, and walk ourselves into our tabletop position. Now I want to ground in to the ground, a source where I find power, right? Where I extend my mobility from, be I on all fours, or even the biped that I am on my 2 feet. Okay, my energy for my movement is derived from the ground. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and bring our hands just beneath our shoulders and our hips just above our knees. Okay, just best we can. And here, let's get back into our breathing, our cat-cows. So here, my cat, like a scared cat, right? Here's rising up on its back. So are my vertebrae, rising up, pushing up, not just through the top of my spine, but all throughout. There's a slight big rotation, bringing my hips back and my gut in as well as my butt in. So here, rise up, chin to chest. And my core is contracted for an exhalation. And then for my cow, like the cow, belly down, udders down, head up, inhale. You notice the rotation of my hips now comes forward, guts out, and butts out. And again, exhale, cat, and inhale, cow. And again, finding power through our base. Our base is how our body meets the ground, the earth beneath us. And it's nice and flat to the ground. Knees met firmly to the mat, as well as the tops of my feet. Really trying to press in the top of my feet, straightening my shin bone to my foot. And time. Now from here, again, experiencing sensations for what they are. I want to bring my hips back towards my heels. All the way back, really, this time with gravity is my friend. I'm going to bring my hips down towards my heels, flattening the tops of my feet to the ground. I'm going to walk my knees just a bit wider. So allow my chest into the space between my legs. My head comes down, and I begin to walk my fingers forward for my child's pose. All the while I'm walking my fingers forward and being sure to keep my hips attached and connected to my feet. Thereby my feet connected with the earth, grounding throughout. As I begin to walk my fingers forward, but still sit my hips back, allow contraction and stretch in the spine. Just allowing space between each vertebrae. Relax the head, walk the fingers forward, and breathe. Make sure the weight is equally distributed, both left and right foot, both left and right hand. Again, letting go of any judgment of any position that we're in, any thoughts of past or future, allowing yourself into this present moment through your breath. Now, actively coordinating my breath with my movement, I'm going to go ahead and dive through. I'm going to keep my hands up to where they are, and I'm going to dive downward and forward, raising my hips off of my heels. My elbows touch the ground, but I'm not placing too much weight onto my elbows as I dive through for my low plank or chaturanga. Thighs come in, still pressing the tops of the feet to the mat. And then I dive upwards, arms close to my body, and I exhale. Up dog. Shoulders are back, and my gaze is forward, hips down to the ground. And again, that allowance of allowing gravity to work the stretch, as well as my breathing. Now, an active inhale as I push back for my down dog. My gaze slowly goes downward. I flip the tops of my feet to the bottoms of my feet, ball of my foot, stretching my toes, pushing my head in between my arms as I lower my heels down towards the ground, a slight bend in both knees. head in between the arms. My back is straight and in line with my spine. Now from here, I want to go ahead and dive through again. This time from my down dog through my low plank or chaturanga to my up dog. So again, I begin to inhale, lower down, and exhale. So I fly back up, flip the tops of the feet to the mat, exhale, shoulders are back, and I'm looking forward while my shoulders go back and my hips go down towards the ground. Holding in that pose, finding the strength in this position. And again, I push back. Gaze downward, top of the feet to the balls of the feet, one at a time, 1 and 2. Nice and safely protecting my toes. As safety is a goal. Number 1 here, especially in martial practice. Head in between the arms, which are straight and in line with my spine. Let's go ahead and pedal the feet. This time with my heels rising each one individually up and down, left, right, up, down. And let's find the power and base through the ground to dive through again, through my low plank to my up dog. Diving through, this time I stay on the balls of my feet. Shoulders are back, hips down towards the ground. Here my feet are a bit more elevated to allow more space to work the stretch on the balls of my feet. Gaze forward, shoulders back. Excellent. Now from here, I push back again to my down dog. Again, slight bend in both knees. As I position myself, my gaze is back towards my feet, arms are straight and in line with my spine. Now from here, I'm gonna bring my vision to a point just in between my hands and ahead of both hands to triangulate. All right, so I'm looking at a point just ahead. I'm gonna bend both knees like a spring propelling from one position to the other. I'm gonna hop my feet, but my hands stay in place for the moment in time until my feet meet close to my hands. Watch first. 1, 2, and I'm gonna hop my feet just outside my hands. Okay, so the idea here, just safety. So however we can get to that point is exactly that, how we get to that point. Okay, your individual route is exactly that, and you will find strength in that realization. So again, bending both legs, my gaze is now forward, about 45 degrees downward at a point in between both hands. 1, 2, and hop. Hands just outside of my feet, or feet just outside of my hands rather. I raise my hands off the ground and press them together for my prayer squat. So here I'll show you my side view. So I position up with my head slightly tilted up, but stays low to the ground. After we've taken in those breaths, 3 more. In through the nose, and out through the mouth. Pressing my arms in between my legs, stretching my groin, my adductors, keeping my feet firmly planted to the ground. Last breath. Excellent. Now I'm going to face towards you. You can stay as you are. Walking my feet wide. Bring my hands apart. Bring my hips up just to engage my thighs. Here I'm going to shift my weight from side to side. Again, finding power in my base through my thighs. Keeping your thighs up parallel to the ground. I shift from left to right, not raising my heel. Keeping my heel planted. Activate and stretch my Achilles, back of my ankle. Nice. And then from here, I'm going to go down to my right side, raising my right heel off of the ground, bringing it towards my butt, and of course my butt down towards it. Flexing my left foot as I straighten my left leg. Toes are up, my foot is flexed. I'm going to try and keep my posture as upright as I can. Let's keep that right knee flared out, about 45 degrees. Keep our arms on the ground. Activating my left thigh, make sure my knee is not hyperextending down towards the ground. Upright posture. Right, a challenge, no hands. And then from here we switch. Shifting weight from one side to the other. Strengthen our legs to work together as a unit, building ourselves from the ground up with power. There is power in presence. That presence signified with our breath, breathing through any immobilities or tightnesses. And again, we switch, shifting away from one leg to the other. Rise up. One heel comes down. The other heel comes up. Keeping my foot flexed in my straight leg, I internally rotate at my hip and bring my inner foot to the ground. I'm trying to keep my posture as upright as I can, really opening my hip up towards the front of me. And no hands on the ground as best we can. If we need to, touch and play with your balance a bit. See which direction we shift. Here we're opening up the adductor and that outer hip. Nice. Now let's go ahead and switch again. One heel comes down again, the other rises up towards my hip. Flex the foot on the straight leg, inner foot down towards the ground, but keeping your posture upright. That groin stretch. Now from here, let's go ahead and go into our lunge. So we're going to pivot both of our feet to the right. Let's make sure there's some lateral space between the feet. What do I mean by that? It's making sure that I'm not on a skateboard here, right? But I want to also make sure that there's hip space, and you'll find what that means for you, what's most comfortable, of course, for you. You need to go a bit wider than hips width, that's fine. Just trying to make sure your hips are neutral and square facing down towards the mat. Both arms are inside the leg. Left arm's inside, right arm just inside the right thigh. Head is up, my hips are down. Nice, and then from here we switch. I'm gonna bring my left heel down and just pivot to my left side. Use your hands to trace along the ground. And again, find that space between both feet, even though one is ahead of the other. My head is up and my hips are down. Hips are facing down. I'm trying not to bring my knee too close, right? Really trying to activate that subtle, that seemingly subtle movement, at least visually, of my hips coming down towards the ground. We're gonna switch to the other side again. I'm walking the hands along the ground. I pivot again. Walking my hands to my right. Head is up, hips down. And this time we're going to twist. I want to raise my inside hand, in this case my right hand, rising up. And stacking my shoulders atop one another. Again, allowing myself power in finding my balance. Looking up, pointing up, exhale. Twist the hips. And down the hand comes down. Let's go ahead and again, walk the hands to the left side. Pivot. Arms on the inside of the leg. Again, my head is up, my hips are down. Here again, raising my inside hand, my left, pointing straight up, my hips still facing down, shoulders are stacked. Again, this balance, stretch, extension, we're finding power through our balance. As we exhale, come back down. Let's walk ourselves to the center. Now as we go into the center here, we go a bit more into our adductors here, into our groin. Just let yourself sit as best you can into your representation of a split, okay? Different splits are going to be in different ways. So if yours means just keeping your hands beneath you and just testing the range of motion, do exactly that. For those that have a bit more flexibility, I'm gonna walk the hands ahead and dive through. Just walking the hands slightly ahead of the shoulders so that we have a good base as we dive through, forward, not putting any strain on the shoulders at all. Again, for those that are sitting in this position, right, feel free to bring yourself out of it by bringing one hand behind, two hands behind, and sitting out of it if it's too uncomfortable. Okay, you can just sit in that position, just keeping the legs wide by pushing yourselves forward. Okay, everyone else, we'll continue to dive through. Chin to chest. Push back. Keep the thighs engaged. Just stretching the groin. Pushing back. And time. Here, we can raise, elevate our palms off of the ground by tenting the palms onto our fingers. And here we can heel toe back to standing position. Okay, so heel toe. When I rotate, raise my heel, raise my toe, heel toe, pivoting back to a standing position. So my hands can comfortably leave the ground. And here, let's ragdoll here. As the legs straighten, head, arms stay really heavy, relaxed. The gaze should be some point behind you. And put a bit of weight in the front of your foot, not so much that we fall forward, of course. You're just opening up the back, the hamstrings, back of the thigh. And let's raise up one vertebrae at a time. We comfortably stand up to our bipedal position with power. Keep the head, arms really heavy as you rotate at the hips. Hips go back, rotating one vertebrae atop the other. Shoulders come up, finally, head stays heavy, heavy, heavy. As I went out of the picture, right, I'm lowering down, you stay up. I want to really go one vertebrae at a time. Imagining they are separate entities, because they are. And time. Okay, let's go ahead and allow yourselves a quick sip of water if you haven't already. If that means taking a break within, right? Some of these positions are a bit physically challenging, so feel free to take yourself a water break if you feel you need it sooner than I asked. Okay, so working ourselves back to a grounded position, we're actually going to show a different way of getting ourselves up again. Okay, so you place yourself onto your yoga mat. And from here, what I want to do is bring my feet wider than hips width apart. Okay, so I can really get into a bit of a squat here. Okay, so I'm going to keep my hands in my head and my arms to my body. I'm bending down towards the ground, using my legs. Maybe a slight lean forward and bend down. Okay. And again, I want to keep in mind my breathing for each exercise. Okay, so bending both legs down, I squat, inhale, and let's exhale, rising. Inhale and exhale. Again, being sure that we're keeping the weight equally distributed on both sides. And time. So what we're going to do here is while we keep our hands to our head, keeping our chin nice and tucked and in a martial position, okay, position of protection and self-preservation, I'm going to keep my hand to my head and my arm to my body, okay? So as I lower down, I want to try to keep my heels on the ground. As I lower down, stay in that squat position with power, instead of raising my heels off the ground as I lower, okay? Now, as I lower down, I'm going to bring right hand down to the ground, and I'm going to bring my right foot off the ground. And from here, I want to rotate my left foot for my kick through. Now, as I kick through, you notice that my toe and heel are facing east or west as opposed to north-south. It means I'm opening my hips up for an external rotation, and I exhale for the force of the movement, okay? From here, I inhale to rise back up, extending my arm in place of my leg, bringing my hand back to my head then, and coming back up. Okay, that's one complete movement on one side. Again, I'm going to inhale, lowering down, leading my left hand to the ground, thereby raising my left foot off the ground, and exhale as I kick through to my side. Okay, now you notice as I kick through to my side, what happened with my other foot? Rotated out to allow direct plane, east or west, whichever direction we're facing. Okay, making sure also to keep my hand just beneath my shoulder, keeping this good balanced position right here, right? And if we feel that we can't hold this position any longer, we just lower down, bend the elbow, lower the hips down towards the ground, and sit down. Okay, but then from there, we can use that to rise up and down. And as I extend forward, I want to keep a slight bend in my knee as well, okay, for reasons we'll state later. So here, what I'll give is two different options for different levels. Okay, inhale, retract, but extend the arm, opposite side. As I turn my hips down, I tuck my hips back a little bit further away from the object which I struck. So I can place myself into a standing position, both hands to my head. Okay, so the option I'll give for those that who want to test their balance more, hand down, kick through, and then we don't touch our hips, extend, retract, and exhale back up. For those that need a little bit more base in between each position, I lower down, exhale, and I come all the way down. From there, I'll find my base again, my strength to rise up. Inhale, and let's bring it back up, okay? Now, one concept that I want to explain as we go into these movements, right? These are martial in their application, but also keep in mind the aspect of self-preservation, okay? Self-preservation can come in so many different forms, very much so in the form of my breathing, okay? It doesn't have to be some extreme scenario where we're, in a brawl or something and, trying to protect ourselves from being damaged, okay? From some outside force. Sometimes that force can be within even, right? Right within, in between our ears even, okay? So we're finding that presence through our breathing, okay? To go through our movements. Now, with that breath, I want to coordinate it with the actual move itself. And let's experience what that means to our bodies, because it'll mean something different for everyone else, okay? So from here, coming back to that standing position, okay? And here, I bend, same side hand down, same side leg up, and I kick through. and I rise back up. As I retract, I extend, keeping my distance between the object which I stated my distance from with my foot. Turn that foot back to its position, still looking in the direction in which I extended. Hands back to my head, exhale, rise up. Okay, inhale, lower, exhale, through, inhale, back up, exhale, all the way up. Inhale down, exhale, through, inhale, up, exhale. And for those that require a bit more of a break, maybe just lower down, because over time we'll find that in order to gain our balance, we need to learn to lose our balance effectively, okay? And that's also not by falling down, crashing down, hurting ourselves, right? So these particular movements are to actually help ourselves keep balance, and if we lose balance, we can lose it with safety, okay? That's to come. So here again, I sit in my rested position here, somewhat rested. Hands stays to my head, okay? I raise up, extend, and let's raise up again. Okay, down we go. And we can lower it down, that small break. So through that break, you have the recovery to rise back up again and move with power. Now those that can move a bit faster, right? Make sure we're still moving completely and still coordinating our breathing with our movements. Inhale down, exhale. Inhale, retract, and exhale, rising. Making sure we're keeping our eyes in the direction in which we're going. Keeping through, looking to where I'm at. Here I'm checking space with my length, and then keeping that space by extending my arm in that same direction. Just a few more. Make sure we're using your legs to rise up rather than sloping down into like a rag doll, getting into our lower backs. Keep the back engaged as we rise up. And time. Let's go ahead and take a seat in Seiza. And here again, if for nothing else, let's reground. You're just relaxing, presencing, recovering. Perhaps that recovery can be in the form of a water break. Feel free to do so. In fact, I encourage it. Returning back to Seiza, just see and differentiate the difference between the sensations I feel now and those that I felt in the beginning of class. And being fine with either. Putting no judgment, no good or bad in what we accomplish for ourselves, be they small or large. Okay, now from here, we're going to go ahead and rise up again. Okay, so any way we can. Now, what we can do from here is I want to go down towards our backs. And how we can go down towards our backs As I come into a squatting position, ever so slightly, and I want to step back, put one foot behind the other. Only I'm on the top of my foot on my back foot, and the bottom of my foot on my front foot, lowering down. And then from here, I rise back up. And then we do the same the other side. One foot behind the other, wherever we can find our base or balance, okay? Top of the foot. You can't go to the top of the foot, you go to the ball of the foot, lowering down, one knee to the ground, okay? And then from there, you can flatten the foot, okay? Rising back up. Again, keep my hands to my head. If I need to, I can bring the corresponding hand down as well. So I go foot, knee, hand, okay? Especially if I need to stand back up. Use that propulsion with the hand to raise the knee, then the foot back into that neutral position. But here, again, how we gain balance. Over time, it's by losing balance early and often. Top of the foot. And here, we're an added bonus. Sit our hips back so we can use propulsion without the use of our hands. Okay? Use my hands, push me back up. Stand up, one leg at a time. Okay? Now we're allowing ourselves a bit more power and balance. We're using one leg at a time. Keeping our hands to our head, arms close to our body. Think of your arms like the letter A in front. Okay, elbows slightly point out. Don't want to be here where I'm too tight in my musculature. Hands are to my head, elbows are pointing down. Down, maybe the bottom of the foot, knee. Then from there, I go from the top of my foot or the bottom of my foot to the top of my foot and down. Okay, we'll keep that going. And we're going everything slowly as we can. A teacher of mine once said, speed can often hide our deficiencies. So we want to be true in our movement, right? True in our breathing. As it pertains to our movement, let's go slow, methodically, and intentionally. Okay, again, maybe I need to use my hand, no judgment. That's where we are, that's our expression of ourselves. And that's great as it is. Inhale as we lower, and exhale as we rise. There's no right or wrong way of doing things in this particular position. Safety is first, so here we're safe to breathe in any direction, but we'll find the more effectiveness in exhaling through the forceful part of our movements. So now I have weight loaded. I need to push that weight, so I exhale, inhale down. In order to use breath, I have to take in breath, exhale up. And use the hands. And time. Now from here, we can take a small break and grab some water, using our legs a lot, and noticing our legs are probably the most powerful limbs we have, right? Definitely more powerful than our arms, right? But even the individual parts of our legs, thigh, glutes, very powerful and provide us with a lot of balance and force, okay? So what you're going to do, if you grab your water, you're coming down, that same position, one foot behind the other, knee down. And here, I want to try and roll over my own foot here, right? Sitting my hips back past my foot and coming down onto my same side glute, okay? So, chilling here in my rear view, foot down, knee down, not sitting directly atop my foot, but I'm going behind and sitting here on a fleshy part of my glute, right? Not even my sit bones, okay? So as I just mentioned here, right? My glute being one of the more powerful parts of my body, right? And also as a cushion to absorb any impact from the ground. Right, sitting back, and again, we can use our hands for those that maybe have their balance a bit more challenged to rise back up. All the way up, foot behind the other foot, on the base of my front foot, and ideally the top of my other foot. We can go on the ball of the foot to balance, lower down with balance. Here I find my triangulation, good base, flatten the foot, sit down, and back. Okay, use the hands if we want to rise back up. Let's make sure we keep one hand at the head. Okay, keeping in mind our martial practice, protecting the head, and of course protecting what's inside of it, okay, including our thoughts, okay? And what I mean by that is, again, placing no judgment on where we are in our movement, checking into that inner dialogue. One, why am I here to begin with? How will my day be? How does this relate to what my day will be? Right? You can sit there and be present with that notion, right? Whatever it is that comes up for us. But then it's presencing ourselves through our breathing and being safe in our movements. Inhale lower and exhale up. As here, each time, come down, trying to keep my posture as upright as I can, push away, sitting my hips down, no impact, coming back up the same way. Using the hands if I want, or if I need, either is fine. And with my hand on the ground is time. Now I end here intentionally, right? Just find the practicality of this particular movement. In our martial sense, I'm raising my hips off the ground using my arms, right? Bringing my foot from behind the other and extending forward for what we call our standing base. As we showed earlier, right? As we move from the ground to standing, back to the ground, back to standing. One of the ways that I safely and effectively move from a grounded position to a more ambulatory position where we can move more effectively to our bipedal position and time. So from here, let's go ahead and return to our Seiza. So, keeping our spines nice and tall. One hand over top the other. Eyes are closed, hips slightly tilted forward. Equally distributing the weight to the heels from the hips, directly down to the ground. Get my eyes to close. Just make space for presence. Whatever may occur for me, internal chit chats, external noise, anything that may be taken away, distracting me, even if it's the sound of my voice itself. Just accept that for what it's worth, or as it is. Just breathe through it and return back to the present moment through our breathing. Big inhalation. Again, taking in that which serves us, that which nourishes us, nutrifies us, feeds us. It's like the oxygen we breathe. And exhaling, releasing, sending out that which no longer serves us. And placing no judgment on either. Any labels of good or bad. It is what it is. Finding what is our presence through our breathing. Begin to deepen our breath. Relax the jaw, relax the brow, relax the cheeks, relax the face altogether. Relax the mind. Allow it to be more pliable and elastic. Of course, our creativities. Our emotions. Our tasks effectively. Finding joy, bliss, even the playfulness in our day-to-day moments. Not taking ourselves too seriously. Keep our minds and bodies, our breathing, fluid, and playful to allow more movement throughout our minds and our bodies. And from here, go ahead and slowly open the eyes. Bring our hands forward. Raise our hips off of our heels to our tabletop position. Let's walk ourselves back to a high plank. Ball the foot, ball the foot. Let's push back for a down dog. Head in between the arms. Hips rotated back. The hips are rotated forward, and here, I'm going to keep a slight bend in both knees. Arms straight in line with the spine. Let's dive through for an up dog. Tops the feet to the mat. Head up, hips down, shoulders back, and I'm looking forward with ease, and with power, as they can both exist at the same time. Let's go ahead and push back to our Seiza position. And again, rounding ourselves in, again with ease and with power. It's two things that are not seemingly synonymous. We can join them together in unison throughout our bodies, mind, and spirit. Thank you again for joining me to win the day on Wednesday. I'll see you again on Saturday where we can win the weekend, as beginning is indeed winning. Thank you so much. Enjoy your week.